Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we use audio deepfakes to win an election, because this week we listened to Whispers of Terror.
Written by Justin Richards.
Directed by Gary Russell.
And released on 2 CDs and 2 cassettes in November 1999, now available via download and streaming.
Wow, thanks for your specificity there. Thanks for the level of specificity you didn't provide the last 2 weeks.
We did talk about the formats the last 2 weeks, I think.
You mean last week? We only brought it up last week, and I know we only brought it up last week because when you brought it up, you said, wow, I can't believe we didn't talk about this last week.
I thought we did mention it the week before because we talked about, at some point we talked about the covers, right, and how they are cropped on the tapes. Which I don't remember if it was last week or the week before. Whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that was the week before that we talked about the covers being cropped. So I guess we talked about it in that context.
Yeah, but what we are here
feels like a technicality, but anyway,
to talk about. Yeah, all right, whatever. What we are here to talk about this week is Whispers of Terror. A rather mediocre story, in my opinion.
No. This story was great. I loved this story. Phantasmagoria was a mediocre story, if anything.
Wow. Just coming back swinging. All right. Just sort of, I don't know.
Yeah, well, you came out swinging at the start of this podcast for no reason. You just came out swinging.
Why?
For no reason.
By saying that that Justin Richards' rather, I don't know why I'm using the word rather so much, but rather prolific output is Drek. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, before we started recording the episode, Keon was just like, let's see what other Drek Justin Richards wrote, only to find out he's like extremely prolific in the world of Doctor Who.
Right, he's written, it doesn't look like he's written for the show, but he has written a bunch of books,
audios.
He's written for some of the annuals. I don't know whether those are like comics or stories, but he's written for those. It looks like they're all short stories. Just going through on the TARDIS wiki here. But yeah, he's a pretty big deal, I guess. Main time period active 1994 to 2018 and 2021. Like we mentioned the other week,
nice.
just put 1994 to 2021. It's fine that he took like 2 years off. I guess the it does help to be more specific, but whatever.
Yeah, more specificity is always good, right?
I guess maybe.
Right?
I don't know.
Right?
I mean,
right?
Not in every context, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's like, imagine if, like, JFK was like, all right, put us on the moon, and I want to know in 10 years, and I want to know every single detail of the process, even though I'm president, and have other things to worry about. Like getting killed.
Or like, the other things I have to worry about, including the fact that we've put out like a solid week's continuous worth of audio out there, and that, like Amber Dent in this episode, literally anybody could take all our audio recordings and just like deep fake our voice to say almost anything at this point.
That's true. We've talked about that before. In fact, they wouldn't even have to, given the unhinged things we've said on recording. They wouldn't even have to go through the trouble.
Yeah, well, luckily for you / me, / both of us, most of the controversial things have been cut in post.
That's true. This story does go into something that I both wish existed and fear existing, which is like being able to control F sound and like audio recordings, which is like when that exists, and it probably will. I think that some rudimentary form of it actually does exist already, but given like audio transcription technology, but like once that exists in a better form, like, yeah, anyone could just find anything that we said but also like it makes it easier to find like stuff if you're listening to audios or video. It kind of makes it easier to just Control F. But yeah, kind of sort of scary in that sense.
I'm pretty sure with audio transcription technology, you can
do it already, but like it's just you just kind of have to jump through a couple hoops. So you basically just have to get a full transcript of whatever you're listening to, and just Control F it. I'm sure there will be better ways to do it in the future.
Well, yeah, technology's always improving.
Yeah, let's go with that. So some like Dark Ages peasant, screw you guys. Like forgot how to imagine living in like, I don't know, the 1300s or something, and just being like just living in the ruins of like, you know, you're in Europe, so like living in the ruins of like the Roman Empire and being like, damn, like we don't know how to make any of this stuff anymore. We forgot, you know, the knowledge and technology was forgotten.
Yeah, well, okay, well, sucks to be them, but we're not them. Sucks to suck.
I don't know if it's true or not, but I read about like this like indigenous Australian group that like they forgot how to make fire, which is like that really sucks. Like, imagine like just forgetting how to cook food.
I mean, not only that, like imagine forgetting how to keep warm in like the desert at night. Well, anyway, literally 4 hours before we started recording, some Doctor Who news dropped that we should at least give a cursory mention to, since, well, we are a Doctor Who podcast.
Despite everything, we are a Doctor Who podcast.
Yeah, despite everything, just like basically trying to prove the opposite. We're a Doctor Who podcast. And in classic Doctor Who fashion, I'm going to mispronounce his name, but anyway, they've announced the 14th Doctor. Jodie Whittaker's successor, Russell T Davies' chosen lead cast member, Nkuti Gatwa. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Just know that I'm going to learn how to pronounce it by the time that his tenure on the show actually begins.
Well, I've looked up this article, how to pronounce Nkuti Gatwa's name, on popbuzz.com. So let's see what they say.
Okay, it seems
this
like
is a one-sentence article.
Actually,
it's this is a clickbait site, so it's 14 facts about him, and this is fact 14. It's on its own page for more ad revenue, and it's one sentence. So, okay, apparently it is actually, his first name is pronounced Shooty, which I never would have guessed, while Gatwa is simply Gatwa. Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I got his last name right.
They're saying that it's Shooty, and they are transcribing that / writing it as SHOOTI. I'm sure if he has a Wikipedia, does he have he has a Wikipedia page, right? He has to. Yeah.
He has to, right? Okay, yeah, he does. Yeah, okay, Shooty Gatwa is exactly what it says on his Wikipedia page. Yeah.
Gatwa.
You know, with the power of post-production, I could just go back and make it so that I never mispronounced his name, but it's okay. I can admit that
it's
got his name wrong.
It's basically a given that we do. Damn, he's...
Yeah, John Pertwee.
Okay, yeah, all right, that one was on me.
Joffrey Beavers, that one was on me.
Born 15th October 1992. He's not much older than us. I mean, the longer we keep doing this...
Yeah, he's not. I mean, he's not the youngest person to take up the role. I think that's still Matt Smith.
Yeah, at the time of him.
Right.
Well, no, yeah, that's true, because he's 29 right now, so he's not going to be...
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt Smith was like, what, 28 or something like that? Or wait, was it Matt Smith or was it Peter Davison?
I don't know. They were both like 26.
Oh, really? They're 26? I thought they were like 28.
Matt Smith became the youngest actor ever, age 26, to play the Doctor when he took on the role in 2010. And Peter Davison was 29, so actually Ncuti Gatwa is the second youngest now. He's usurped Peter Davison's spot in second place.
But he will be 30 by the time he actually has his first episode.
Well, we don't know that, right? If he shows up in the 13th Doctor's Regeneration special this year, he'll...
Oh, yeah, that's true. That is true.
He'll be 29. I guess he might be 30. I don't know. It depends when that special airs. But it would have been recorded when he was 29, so...
The longer we keep doing this podcast, actually, basically, probably the next Doctor is going to be younger than us, or, our age, which is going to be weird.
Thanks for that fun fact. Thanks. Making me feel old.
Well, you know what they say. 25 is the new 60.
Nobody says that.
I do now.
You will never say that again.
I can say it again right now if I want.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Yeah, coming in with these technicalities this week. Anyway,
I mean, I haven't seen him in anything. Let's take a look at his filmography here. Oh, he's in the Barbie movie that's coming out next year. That's the one with Margot Robbie as Barbie and Ryan Gosling as Ken. Let's see, what else has he been in here? He's been in Sex Education, that Netflix show, and a bunch of stuff I don't recognize, so that's cool. I don't know. I don't have any speculation on how he's going to play the role, except that we'll just see how Russell T Davies writes them and how he interprets the scripts.
Right. Yeah, all we can do is wait and see.
Just looking through the Reddit thread to see, the general consensus seems to be, I guess we'll just wait and see. And a lot of people are saying, wow, all those leaks of who the Doctor was going to be were all wrong.
Yeah, this does just go to show you, he was on, basically nobody's radar. Right? I mean, there wasn't anyone who was like, guys, I think it's going to be Ncuti Gatwa.
Someone here is saying one of the leakers, well, not one of the, Russell T said in a Red Carpet interview that they already had someone in mind, and then they saw him meeting Ncuti Gatwa audition, and were so blown away they changed their minds. But I don't know how reliable that is. It's just a random unsourced Reddit comment, so... some people are upset that it's just an anticlimactic tweet, and then some people are theorizing that they were going to announce it at the BAFTAs, but heard that someone might leak it, so they needed to beat the leak. Some people pointing out that he's probably the first actor to grow up with Reboot Who, because he would have been 12 when the show started in 2005-ish, 12, 13.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And how that might inform his performance, that's a good point.
Right, and the fact that we're going to be going back to Russell T Davies, who basically invented Modern Who.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how all of those kind of influences coalesce into his portrayal of the Doctor, and what kind of scripts we're going to see. I heard a rumor that they just started filming the 60th anniversary special, or Russell T Davies' first script. They just started filming it last week, so I guess that kind of lends credence to the theory that they were trying to beat a leak by just tweeting it out unceremoniously, because I guess since they started filming it would eventually leak, oh, here's the Doctor. So.
Right.
Anyway, though, enough about that. Let's talk about the best audio of all time, Whispers of Terror. So the episode opens with the Doctor basically admitting he doesn't know how to fly the TARDIS, and then they land.
Right. So we should mention this is the Sixth Doctor and Perry. As always, the narration that you hear at the beginning of the audio welcomes the Sixth Doctor. Sort of goes, and now introducing, Colin Baker as the Sixth Doctor, despite the fact that he has alrely been in. I guess introducing like is more of a. It's not an overall sort of all encapsulating thing, right? It's just sort of in this story we're introducing him here. I kind of took offense to that in the last one as well. But it just
I was going to say that the TARDIS wiki makes the like useless comment that this is the first audio drama not to feature Peter Davison.
Well, it's true, right? It's not. I mean, it might be useless, but as they say, as they say in the audio, there's sort of this value to truth, regardless of its usefulness. Even if it's not useful, even if it's like a detriment, like. So there you go. I mean,
yeah. I mean, okay. It's just like a useless fact, I suppose. I mean, the statement itself isn't so useless, but like the fact itself doesn't really provide any clarity or any additional information.
Yeah, It might be like just a fun. It's like less of a fun fact for us because we already know. I
guess.
Anyway. The Sixth Doctor here is, of course, with his probably most prolific companion, Perry. His only one, actually, I guess.
Well, no. He had one episode with Mel.
Yeah.
It was Terror of the Vervoids. Remember? Because we always complain about how the one story around plants didn't have Perry the botanist in it. And like, I guess technically there was like a whole string of stories with Mel, because that story in the context of Trial of the Time Lord was the like future story, and then like she was with the Doctor when he regenerated. So we never actually saw. First off, we never saw. I think we never saw Colin Baker's Doctor meet Mel.
I can't remember.
Or it was something like Terror of the Vervoids was when they met, but. It was like the wrong version of Mel because she was like a future version of Mel that they had accidentally plopped into the wrong story. There was something about how the Sixth Doctor needed to get Mel back to her own time after Terror of the Vervoids. Anyway, my point merely was that the Sixth Doctor had more than one companion.
Perry and the Sixth Doctor have always had sort of a bickery relationship, and that is replicated perfectly here.
Right. This story very accurately portrays the dynamic between Perry and
it's annoying as hell.
The Doctor.
It's really...
Well, they tone it down a lot compared to the...
They do. On the show, it is downright hostile.
The show.
Here, it's not. One of the other things that you sort of notice right off the bat, besides the bickering, is the synth soundtrack. It is sort of very, unlike the previous two audios that we've listened to for this season, the soundtrack is very in your face, and it sounds like someone's just sort of, I don't know, right off stage playing like a Casio or something.
Oh, that's weird because I didn't notice.
Oh, really? You didn't notice there's a bunch
story.
Of stings that sound like a very, it's like a very sort of deep and sort of orally vibrant FM synth.
Yeah, no, I didn't notice that. Yeah, no.
Well, it felt right at home with the story. This is sort of in that era of Doctor Who. They were going for that type of sound, right? With the sort of synth.
They were doing that.
Instruments and all this. So.
It's probably because Nicholas Briggs was doing the music in this episode.
Did Nicholas Briggs do the music in the previous two that we listened to as well? No.
No, I just looked it up. He didn't do... Alistair Locke did Phantasmagoria. He did do Sirens of Time, but he didn't do Phantasmagoria. Nicholas Briggs, that is.
Well, he really went all out this time around, or for some reason I just noticed it more this time around.
Yeah, I noticed
That
that
was-
less, surprisingly. Oh well. Not a good
You probably paid
indication
more
that I'm
attention to
paying
me.
a lot of
'Cause,
attention.
yeah,
but
after
whatever.
part like 2, I kind of just started zoning things out. But like that was the thing about this story, was that the soundtrack really caught my ear, I guess. But like, and they were doing, they were skirting it the entire time. Like they were always skirting doing something interesting with like the audio, or deducing the murder from the recording, or like something like this. But they never like really went fully into that. There was just the waiting pool version of that. You know, it was like
The waiting pool version.
right. It's like, you know, it's like in the summer. It's like, hey, like, you know, let's go to the pool. Well, actually, we have this inflatable pool. Just put that in the backyard type thing. That was what this kind of was. And part 4, I will say, was my favorite part, and I think the best one, because, you know, they sort of gave me what I wanted all along. They pandered directly to me, which was figuring out the conspiracy via clues on the tape, and it wasn't a tape, it was more of a CD, but that's fine.
Yeah, part 4 was my favorite too. But I liked all of them. I guess we should explain. So the first one is the Doctor and Perry land, and then we meet the museum curator Gantman and Miles Napton. So Gantman curates this museum. Napton is like a researcher researching this actor, Vistine Crane.
We don't know what this museum is yet, but dialogue clues hint that it is something to do with sound and sound recording, and lo and behold, it is. It's the Museum of Oral Antiquities. Now, something interesting right here in this very first scene, I guess, with Napton and Gantman, is that Napton, he's sort of, throughout the entire thing, actually, he's sort of very sleepy and drowsy, and he stays awake for the entire time, but yeah, just, you know.
Well, he did like go to bed at the beginning of the story and get woken
Oh, is that
up.
what it was? Yeah, well, his name, what I was going to say was his name is Napton, right? And Napton.
Well, wow. Well, Napton never goes to sleep. Gantman goes to sleep. Napton is also revealed to not actually be a real person.
Right,
But
yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, that's what, because at the beginning he was like, I'm going to go do my research, and Gantman is like, don't you want to go to sleep?
Yeah.
Like, I want to go to sleep. And he's like, nah, I'm not going to go to sleep. I'm going to pull another all-nighter.
And Gantman's like, all right, whatever.
It's just like, whatever, man. Do whatever you want, bro.
Meanwhile, the Doctor's not the only intruder. We also meet, was it like Amber
Yes,
Dent? I
Amber
think it
Dent.
was.
And Goff Fotherell.
Yeah, Fotherell. They break in and they get or retrieve the same file that Napton was just listening to.
Right, which is...
And they
yeah,
start
and this
to
file
edit
we
it.
should mention is a speech by the deceased politician, Vistine, actor, Vistine Crane.
Yeah, so Crane never actually announced that he was going to run for president. It was just like widely speculated. And like right before he died, he had written a speech to announce his candidacy for presidency called the candidature speech. And the speech ends up being like a major plot point in parts 2 and 3.
It's basically what the entire thing revolves around.
Right. But they're editing the speech, and then they hear the Doctor and Perry in the background, and they're like, uh-oh. So they kind of panic, and they get separated while running away. Fotherell ends up getting electrocuted by the secure archives in the process.
So I believe also this the first scene with, you know, Dent and Fotherell is like this is where we start to hear the whispers, right? Presumably these are the whispers of terror.
Yeah, one of the few knocks I have on the story is that the name kind of sucks. Whispers of Terror, but like the working titles are so much cooler, like The Sound of Fear and Sound Judgment.
Oh my god.
Don't lie, Sound Judgment is such a better title for the story.
Well, it's certainly a punnier one. I think depending on who you are, that's either, for the better or for the worse, but... Yeah, Whispers of Terror is kind of a lame title. It's accurate, though. It's like, part 3 and most of 4, I was like, all right, just put a bullet through my head like I'm Christine Crane. Just whispering this sort of terrible story into my ear.
Wow. I don't know why you're being so harsh.
Yeah, neither do I, but it's fun, so I'll just keep it up, I guess.
Wow.
Well, anyway, yeah, Father Ill bites the dust. This is where we finally learn explicitly where we are, which is, like we said before, the Museum of Oral Antiquities. And so you start piecing it together. I will say that was a good part of the story, I think, was that you sort of, at least in part 1, you kind of put the clues together, I guess, and piece together where you are, and it's sort of done very naturalistically and organically.
Well, it also kind of sets up the conspiracy because they accidentally walk in on Dent changing one of the audio files. So somehow the Doctor and Perry don't realize she's changing the audio files when she just yells like, "Computer, delete all changelogs," and then runs away.
Yeah. Well, they're kind of onto her in a way. Another punny thing, I forget exactly what the context of this was, but I wrote it down, was like, I think the Doctor, he finds out that they're in the Museum of Oral Antiquities, he goes, "Sounds interesting."
Wow.
So just continuing on our little pun train here, I guess. But yeah, Dent is obviously doing something suspicious. I don't know about you, but I kept just thinking of Harvey Dent every time they brought her up, or every time she, not on screen, was on I don't know, headphone or something like that.
On headphone.
On
in frame.
Yeah, on speaker.
On stage. Live mic.
Yeah, there was... oh, okay, never mind. I'll say what I was going to say later when it's more appropriate to mention.
Well, they run into Detective Berkeley. And he believes that they killed Father Ill because he finds the Doctor and Perry standing over Father Ill's dead body, so it's not exactly an unreasonable assumption.
Yeah, so Berkeley, why was he even there? Was he called in why was Berkeley there? He just was, right?
I think he was the security officer, wasn't he?
Because the cast list has him as a detective. I guess he was just...
Yeah, his title is detective, but I think he was if you go to his page, he's the security officer.
Yeah. Oh, actually, was he the one that Father Ill and Dent heard? Because they heard a guy whistling. Or was that the Doctor?
Yeah, I think it was. I think so. I don't think they hear... Excuse me. I don't think they hear Colin, the Doctor, and Perry. Colin, what am I saying?
Imagine if...
Yeah, I don't think they hear...
Yeah, I think that the guy they heard whistling was Barclay. But imagine if every Doctor, adopted... imagine if it was a Stanley Kubrick thing. Every Doctor adopted the first name of the actor who played them. Sixth Doctor was just named Colin. Not Colin Baker, but just Colin.
Yeah. Just Colin, wow. Yeah, well, anyway.
Yeah, Barkley is like you mentioned, he's suspicious. He's
Is it Berkeley?
It's pronounced...
Berkeley.
It's spelled Berkeley, but I think they called him Barkley.
Oh, well. I don't remember, honestly. He kind of disappears for half the story.
I know, he doesn't play a major role. He surprisingly doesn't play a major role.
His funniest line is to say that like he doesn't actually believe that the Doctor and Perry killed Father Earl because they're wearing such insane outfits that they like wouldn't be able to get away with the murder if they had actually killed him wearing those outfits. Which is like some reverse psychology nonsense.
Yeah, how to get away with murder 101, just dress bombastically or, like a clown or whatever. Well, Perry isn't dressed. Just if we go by what is on the cover of the audio, she doesn't seem to be dressed too strangely. Looks like she's just wearing a shirt with like the top 3 buttons undone as she normally does.
Yeah, on the other hand, though, this is like, how to say, we don't know what time period this museum is like exists in. Like, she might be wearing normal clothes for us, but they might be 3 centuries out of date. I mean, if somebody showed up wearing like a wig and then like a foppish like frilly collar, from the 17th century,
right.
You'd think that's pretty weird.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Do we even know that this was on Earth?
No, I don't think we do actually. Although I kind of thought, well, for some reason I kind of assumed it might be, but no, actually, it doesn't necessarily have to be on Earth.
Yeah, they don't confirm it or deny it one way or the other.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it's either way in the future or it's on an alien planet. Or hey, you know what? Maybe it's way in the past. Maybe this is like forgotten technology, like we were talking about before. Just an entire forgotten period of history. Maybe this is like
that'd be pretty weird.
Yeah, like Atlantis or one of those other like lost continents, like Lemuria or whatever. Imagine if they just dropped that at the end of the story, like the presidency they were vying for was like the president of Atlantis. And this actually led into one of the like 4 different times we've gotten the history of Atlantis on Doctor Who. Plays absolutely no role, is completely irrelevant to the story.
Yeah.
Anyway, I forget why they do this, but they start like searching for Crane's audio, and this is how they meet up with Gantman and they start doing this, and this is how they realize that the audio has been changed, because Gantman tries to pull up something from the audio, but it's not finding it. It's not finding that particular phrase.
Yeah, it's because so the Doctor and Perry explain that they walked in on Dent listening to an audio file, and they distinctly remember that the file said no single man is greater than his policies. And then Gantman says, no, the quote is a single man is greater than his policies. And they're like, no, we're pretty sure we heard it this way. So Gantman asks the computer to look up the phrase a single man is greater than his policies, and the computer doesn't find it, but it does find no single man. They're like, well, maybe your memory's just failing, Gantman. He's like, and then this is when Gantman reveals that he's blind, which actually plays into the reveal in part 4. Mm-hmm. So the Gantman is blind, but he has a really good sense of hearing because of that, and so he's like he's like really sure that he knows what the phrase was, and then he then reveals that Beth Parnell, Crane's assistant / like secretary / confidant, is going to be there the next day to basically curate some Crane audio messages for a tribute that's going to happen.
Right, and she was going to be, if Crane was elected, she was going to be his vice president, essentially.
In theory, yeah. People. The speculation was that she would be his vice president. Mm-hmm.
She's also coming with some other guy named Stengard, who, I forget who Stengard exactly what, he was just like her assistant or something, like the assistant to the assistant.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm just reading the wiki here. Beth Parnell was Vestine Crane's agent.
Oh, yeah, his agent, so because he was an actor, yeah. Oh, and Stengard was a Stengard was a producer. Like a producer. Yeah, Stengard actually worked at. I guess Stengard was Parnell's.
I think Stengard worked at the
At the museum, yes.
Museum of Oral
Yeah, and he was
Antiquities.
sort of the inside man of the whole conspiracy.
Right.
That's the end of part 1, actually.
Well, the end of part 1 is that they kind of end up getting split up, and Perry ends up running into the voices.
Yeah.
Because they hear a noise, so they go investigate, and Perry and the Doctor hear the voice shouting out, like, "Who am I? Who am I?" And Perry screams. A classic Doctor Who moment is the episode ending. The classic 80s Doctor Who moment is the episode ending with the female companion letting out a scream.
Yeah, like the one that was actually in Terror of the Vervoids, where it's just this shrill, like Mel screams, it's just like shrill, piercing.
Was that the one that like is the same note as the hit into the
I think
the Doctor
so.
Who
I
theme?
think so. But yeah, this whole story, just the auditory like nature of it, I guess, both as an audio and as an audio about audio, is like, just where was Victoria right when you needed her? You know, she had some pretty capable lungs. Where the hell was she for all of this? You know, just napping, or just, I don't know.
Yes, she was asleep.
Eating some seaweed.
Yum.
Hey man, seaweed is a key part of British national cuisine. Like those boiled
Is it?
seaweed. Yeah, it actually apparently is. So like,
Wild.
there's this, I'm sure we've talked about this before, but it's probably years ago. There's this British, like, I guess it's like a breakfast food. It's called laver bread, right? And it's basically toast with a spread on top. Now, you might be thinking this spread is, I don't know, jam or, you know, something of this sort. But no, it's actually just like a boiled seaweed, like, paste thing.
Ugh.
Yeah. Just some dude walking down the beach just sees, like, a tangle of kelp, like, you know what would be good? Just another appalling entry in the, I don't know, catalog of British cuisine. Which, hey, we knock British cuisine all the time, but, you know, as I like to mention, they gave us the sandwich, so there's that.
Yeah, but was it worth it for everything else they gave us?
I think so. I think they paid their dues with the sandwich. It may not justify it, but it may not justify everything else, but, you know, we're not constantly being inflicted with, like, stargazy pie, you know? We are constantly being inflicted with a sandwich, although it's not an infliction because it's like a benefit or a boon.
I have no comments.
I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore, so let's just go into part 2.
Yeah, okay. Part 2. So in part 2, they kind of regroup at the I don't even know. They regroup back in the main room, and they're like, "What the hell's going on?" They regroup with Beth Parnell, but Perry tries to follow Dent, I think, and gets lost, and then they all meet up with Parnell and Stengard.
Yeah, that was one thing about this audio, is that, like, unlike Phantasmagoria, there is a very clear location where this takes place, so that is similar to Phantasmagoria, but unlike Phantasmagoria, it's kind of hard to keep track of, like, where the characters are. It's like, it's hard to not visualize, but it's hard to, like, you know, with Phantasmagoria, there was, I don't know, it was more clear to me that it's like, all right, there's very clear locations here. We're in What's-His-Face's house, we're in What's-His-Face's living room, we're in the Diablo Club, whatever, but here it's like, you know, they're sort of just, I guess it's classic Who-esque in that sense, where it's like, a lot of this felt like they were just walking down nondescript hallways.
Yeah, I guess that was like my one complaint actually while listening to this story, is that I genuinely had like real difficulty visualizing the location and setting of the story.
Yeah, it's like, because they are ostensibly in a museum, but it feels like they were just kind of, I don't know, in the in the back of the museum where people work, right? Not like on the museum floor or whatever.
Right. And like I couldn't even imagine what the museum looks like, and
right, and it's an audio museum, so like just that in itself is like, how do you picture that, right? It's like most times when you kind of think of a museum, it's sort of just this visual or it's like a very sort of tangible thing, right, where they have displays and all of this. But like, what is an audio museum? I'm sure one exists in the real world, but what is it? What does it look like?
Yeah, and they mentioned that the whole museum is soundproofed, and I'm like, how do you even visualize that? But anyway, the doctor's kind of wondering, like, why would someone risk so much to edit a political speech? And he asks Parnell if she's planning to run in the election. Because now that Crane's dead, obviously she's not going to be his vice president, but she might run on her own. And he kind of like almost tricks her into admitting that she is.
Yeah, they find out that she is, or that she's vying for the position, at least.
Well, the doctor does some clever wordplay that tricks her into admitting it, because she's like, well, somebody should continue on Vestine Crane's like plans. And he's like, someone like you. And she's like, I would be a great president. So after getting Parnell to admit that she's going to run for president, basically Stengard ends up running into Dent. Now, obviously, Dent and Stengard are working together because, well, Stengard's working with Parnell and Dent was their hired hand to edit the files. But Dent has basically been driven mad by the voices. So Stengard essentially tries to cover his tracks by turning her in.
Yeah, and they place her in sort of a soundproof room, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because she's going on and on, sort of ranting and raving about hearing these voices, and they're like, yeah, right, sure you are. So they put her in this padded room. I assume it was padded or something, sort of I don't know, mental asylum-esque, right? So.
Mm-hmm. The doctor kind of has an insane theory, a classic maneuver. He has an insane theory. This is like, this is Edward Straker level insane. He's just like, oh, maybe the voices are a life form that like lives in sound.
This is a classic Who thing where the doctor's just like, he just pulls this out of his non-existent hat, and yet it turns out to be pretty much exactly right. There's a little more to the story, but yeah, he's pretty much right.
So they
just buy it. They're just like, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
We get another scene with Napton here. It's not really too big of a deal. It's not really too much of an advancement from what we saw before. He basically just talks to Napton. He talks to Gantman. He's like, hey man, like, I'm going to keep doing my research. Gantman gives the affirmative. He says, okay. He's like, all right, go do that.
You do you, man.
Yeah. All right, whatever, man. At this point, I was guessing that Napton's research was somehow causing the voices, or was part of the whole conspiracy. It kind of was, I guess. Because we said before, he's not real.
Stengard ends up killing Dent, and then being like, "Oh, she was so racked with guilt, she killed herself." And everyone's like, "I don't know if I believe you, Stengard, but okay." He then reports to Parnell, and they're like, "Okay, we're going to succeed now. Like, this is perfect. Like, nobody can stop us now, basically."
Mm-hmm. And it was already pretty obvious, but this is where I think it becomes undeniably clear that Parnell is behind it.
Yeah. Yeah. The doctor is kind of investigating, trying to learn more about Crane. He at this point has figured out that Parnell is probably editing Crane's speeches to support her bid for president. And And he basically, after seeing Crane's sound suite where he recorded all of his like performances at the Oral Institute, because apparently he was an extremely meticulous actor who recorded a lot of performances for later review, that there's like an alpha wave modulator or something, and he basically posits the theory that the sound life form is Vestine Crane, who modulated his life into like a sound form right at the moment of death.
Right. And once again, he's spot on.
Yeah.
As far as we know, maybe the sound creature was like, that's actually completely wrong, but I'm just going to go along with it and pretend. Right? We don't know.
So the Doctor now immediately is like, well, the only way we can kill Vestine Crane is to like make a cancellation sound. But in order to do that, we need to know exactly what sound he's going to appear as.
Which is difficult because he can appear as any sound.
Right.
Right. This is sort of the PJ Hammond of sound creatures. He can appear as any sound, and when he's broadcast, he duplicates himself.
Yeah.
To any degree that he wants.
And he can fake anybody's voice, which he does in part 3. They hear the crackle of the intercom, and the Doctor's like, well, the Doctor says we need to seal the museum. Right? We need to seal the museum so he can't escape. And we need to stop the broadcast because he could escape through the broadcast. And then, like, the Doctor goes off to investigate, and they hear, like, the crackle of the intercom, and it's the Doctor going, I was just kidding. We don't really need to seal everything. We can unseal everything. And they're like, are you sure, Doctor? Like, you never admit you're wrong. And then the Doctor walks in the room, and he goes, hey, what's up? And then the intercom voice goes, nothing, never mind. And the Doctor's like, hey, wait a minute.
Crane's like literally not even trying. He's just like, that order I gave you? I forget it. We're good, guys. Unseal everything. ASAP. Something else I learned about Crane at the beginning of part 3, which is where we are at this point, is that he actually committed suicide. His death was allegedly. His death, I think, was being reported as a suicide. They had it on recording. I don't remember if we hear the recording at this point, but what is on the recording is, it supports the suicide theory. You hear a gunshot. He says he has a gun at his head. You hear the shot, and he dies.
Parnell says something like, I wish you'd reconsider. And then he says, Parnell, I have a gun to my head. I mean, the gunshot.
Right. Which, like, that already kind of, I don't know, put some suspicion on Parnell. Right, because she was there, she witnessed it.
Mm-hmm. Well, she was on the phone.
She was on the phone?
Yeah.
I see. I forgot about that.
But yeah, so continuing in part 3. They end up capturing Crane because they basically come up with this plan. If they can detect an edit being made to a speech somewhere, then they think they'll know where he's hiding. So they have the computer basically compare the lengths of audio files until it finds one that's like actively changing, which it does, and they successfully capture Crane into a CD.
Yeah, Perry asks, she's like, oh, you're just going to catch him on tape or something? Doctor's like, no, CD. He says something else, and he's like, it's more like a CD.
Yeah, maybe it's a future disc.
Yeah, an FD.
So he plans to give it to Gantman, basically, to safeguard, but Stengard bumps into him and tacitly swaps the discs.
Yeah, I completely miss this happening. I just understood it to have happened because of what happens later. It's done with, whatever scene it's in, it happens in like 2 seconds, which I guess is a sort of a accurate representation of the sleight of hand that takes place here, right? Is that she swaps out the disc without the Doctor noticing. And in sort of a meta sense, I didn't notice either.
So you were the Doctor in this moment.
Yeah, the Doctor in the TARDIS. I forget where this happens, but at one point Perry is just like, nah. And she just tries to leave. Like, she just tries to go to the TARDIS.
Oh, yeah, so after they give the disc to Gantman, Gantman's like, oh, I can give you a tour of the facility now. And the Doctor's like, oh, yeah, we'd love that. And Perry's like, oh, do I have to?
I wouldn't.
Perry then, during that tour, Perry bails to go to the TARDIS. While this is going on, Parnell is torturing the audio creature, trying to find out what edits the audio creature has made to Parnell's edits to Crane's speeches.
Right, yeah, we're sort of down the rabbit hole at this point where, we're kind of just, I don't know, we've been spun around. This is like, what is that? It's not really a game, but it's just like something kids do where it's like you just spin someone around and watch them flail. It's actually not that complicated, though, so whatever. I think it was just like, I was already pretty uninvested in this. I didn't really care, so it's kind of just, it felt more laborious than it really was. But yeah, Crane is essentially just trying to get his speeches back to whatever they were to begin with.
To normal, yeah.
Yeah, so Stengard is torturing this poor creature, but then, like, once the creature breaks free, it's like, finally, I'm free to kill. It's like, wait, what? Hold on.
Yeah, so Stengard says something like, you've driven it mad, so, like, because Parnell deletes some segments of the waveform, so it's, like, basically driven the creature mad.
Yeah, she basically, like, lobotomized it in audio form. Except the lobotomy caused, like, aggression and terror. The whispers of terror, you might say. I knew it wasn't going to happen, but at the same time, I was kind of I couldn't help but, like, be on the edge of my seat for someone to just, like, open a drawer and be like, there's some tapes we can use in here. And one of them is, like, Doctor Who Whispers of Terror on CD, available from Big Finish, November 1999.
You're doing a better job marketing this than Big Finish did.
Hey, they probably put out their ads, Doctor Who magazine and all that.
Yeah, how did they market this back when it was only on cassette tape? It's not like they could just, like, release audio trailers online, right?
Maybe.
Did they just do featurettes in Doctor Who magazine and, like, that was it?
That's something good to look up or just ask someone online, I guess. On Twitter. Like, how are these
tweet
marketed?
At Big Finish.
Yeah. They probably had stuff in Doctor Who magazine. I'm sure they had at least, like, even if they weren't being distributed online, or even if people weren't really attuned to the website, I'm sure they had a website in 1999. Distribution was also a lot easier because I'm pretty sure they were probably just operating within the UK only. Which to an extent I think they still do. I think you can get, like, a CD here, but it's just, like, it's overly costly.
You have to pay shipping, yeah.
The CDs are already pretty expensive. They're like, what, $25?
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, the downloads are a lot more affordable.
Yeah. If you really want that physical media, you kind of have to pay for it.
Yeah, you have to pay the cost.
Speaking of physical media, now that the creature is free of its physical constraints, it can do anything. It can be anything and be anywhere, and infect the entire world with its sort of auditory, I don't know.
At the end of part 3 also introduces a new wrinkle to the conspiracy. So they've been believing that Parnell has plans to broadcast Vistine Crane's candidature speech, the one announcing he was going to run for president and naming who was going to run with him, basically. And which is going to be broadcast first as part of the tribute, was never actually recorded because Berkeley comes in for his one useful moment where he's like, oh yeah, like we kind of had Crane under, like, surveillance because he was, like, a presidential candidate essentially, or, like, going to be. And the security logs indicate that he never recorded the candidature speech. So the Doctor's like, that means the whole speech is a fake then. There are no edits to the speech that have been made, so the Doctor believes that the creature, Crane, is going to basically use the speech to escape, so he essentially starts running to the broadcast room to try and stop it. But Crane essentially starts attacking him orally.
Yeah. A-U
and that's how part 3 ends.
R-A-L-L-Y.
Yeah. A-U orally.
Yeah. Gotta have some moments of gold in the story, right? Because the rest of it wasn't really all that great. So we have that AU.
Wow. That was so lame.
Look, man, I took like 2 years of science class in high school, or 3 actually, so have to put it to some use. Even if it's just this.
Not like this. Not like this. Okay, anyway, part 4. The Doctor basically appeals to Crane, being like, if Parnell is able to give the speech, then like it's going to look like he's endorsing Parnell, and she's got some insane lunatic ideas for when she becomes president.
Yeah, her idea...
Because she's basically going to win, because there's like no other viable candidates, essentially.
Right. So her goal is basically to just like dismantle the entire political system and just replace it with like seemingly monarchy. Seems like a pretty poor idea in the long run. Doesn't really seem all that well thought out, but we don't know. Like, maybe she would have pulled it off. Who knows? Like, I don't know.
Maybe she would have been a good president too. Who knows? I mean, based on what she believes, like at the end of part 4, when she actually enumerates her beliefs in straightforward, plain English instead of innuendo like the rest of the story, it's kind of like, oof.
Yeah, seems a little off a rocker, a little unhinged, you might say. A few fries, so sort of a Happy Meal, if you catch my drift.
Wow. The Doctor, this works. Crane lets the Doctor go, and the Doctor gets into the sound suite and turns on the intercom and tells the gang, Perry, Gantman, and Berkeley, that the speech is in the archives and they know exactly what it's going to sound like and if the creature's going to escape. And they're like, oh, we can like put a cancellation noise in, which they do. And eventually Stengard like bursts in the room because the announcer announces the
speech?
Announces the broadcast. Yeah. And then Stengard bursts in. He's like, they're not broadcasting anything. They're going nuts. Like, why aren't we giving them anything? And Parnell's like, what do you mean? What do you mean we're not broadcasting?
Right. And I forget how they get onto this topic, but the story basically shifts to like the best 5 minutes of it, which is that they realize that what's his face, Crane's death was not really a suicide.
Yeah, so the cancellation noise didn't actually kill the creature Crane like the Doctor thought at first. It ended up smoothing over the like imperfections that Parnell added when she tortured him, and basically made him sane again. And he plays the audio recording of the suicide for the Doctor, and the Doctor realizes essentially the truth, which is that Parnell ordered Stengard to kill
Crane.
And they figure this out because right before the gun goes off, there's a in the audio tape, and the Doctor realizes that that's not a mechanical noise. It's actually what Stengard does, like whenever he's thinking.
Yeah, this was pretty good. So I think they had actually played something very similar to that noise with like the machinery that was in the rest of the story. So you kind of think that that's what it is, but it's actually Stengard clicking his tongue or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's basically probably the most interesting thing from the story was like listening to that track, and like deducing it from there.
Anyway, Crane kills Stengard. Stengard's like trying to edit something in the broadcast room because he's like locked out of the computer, and the computer's like, you could security override. And Stengard's like, how do I do that? And he's like, pull that cable out. Stengard pulls out, and he's like, wait, no, this cable's live. And then he gets electrocuted.
Wasn't it? It was like a little bit. There's a funny aspect to it. He's like, I don't want to touch that cable. It might be live. And the voice is like, don't worry about it. It's fine. She touches it, and he's like, he has the most like extreme death throes I've ever heard in anything, right?
Yeah, so Gantman has run off to try warn Napton about Stengard, but then he enters the room and Napton's like, I just found Stengard's body, but then the Doctor and Perry run in, and Berkeley, and they're like, there's nobody in you, Gantman, and then Napton is like, okay, you got me, I'm actually Crane, I'm just hiding as Napton, and like, because Gantman was blind, he couldn't see me.
Yeah, this is some Russell Crowe,
like, oh.
A Beautiful Mind, Gantman just takes this and everything else in stride, to be honest. We haven't actually...
Yeah, Gantman's just like, okay.
touched on it, really, but Gantman just, throughout all of this, is just like, yeah, he even has, like, the line that I'm remembering from him is like, what do you want me to do about it, Doctor? It's like the world is, like, crumbling around him, and he's just like, all right, so what? It's like that dog in the middle of the flaming house.
The dog in the meme with the fire, yeah.
Except he's not like, this is fine. He's like actively hostile to anyone who suggests it might not be fine. It's not actively hostile. He's just sort of like old person hostile, where it's like that's their default state of being.
Anyway, the Doctor teams up with with Vestine Crane, and they go to confront Parnell, and he's like, hey, like, you can stop now and we won't do anything. And Parnell's like, no. So they broadcast the candidature speech with some tacit edits by Crane, the creature, who changes it so that instead of Crane, the speech, endorsing Parnell, Crane basically says, like, Parnell's the most abhorrent person he's ever met. And she's, like, absolutely terrible and he hates her.
Yeah, and apparently this is good enough to, like, soothe Parnell's departed soul or something, because he doesn't want to kill anymore. Yeah, Crane. He doesn't want to kill anymore. He's satisfied with just ruining Parnell's reputation.
Well, he's already been soothed. I mean, he already doesn't want to kill. Earlier in the episode, when they broadcast the cancellation noise, he explains that like soothed.
Oh, was that what it was? Yeah.
Yeah. And then they because Parnell is still insisting that she can win and that that's the right way to go, and then she's like, what does she say? That they need like a strong hand to get them out of the weak liberal policies or something like that. But then the creature then plays like the recording of the phone conversation. But then he like alters it slightly to make it clear that Parnell was like the one who murdered, that ordered the murder, that Stengard killed Crane, and Parnell's like, this isn't how it happened. And the Doctor's like, it is how it happened. We just made the audio file a little more clear.
Yeah, just put some noise reduction on that. Just really, equalized everything.
And then Parnell's like, it's fine, it'll never work. It's not like they can convict me for this anyway. And the Doctor's like, guess what? We've been broadcasting everything in this room live. You just confessed to murder. And she's like, oh no.
Well, she gets away, doesn't she?
No, she drives off the road and dies.
Yeah, not overall, but like from this situation, she, I don't know, somehow flees. But then she does die at the end. They say their goodbyes, and then we go into that sort of scene at the end where Parnell, like, I was unclear as to what this was. It was either she crashes her car or it's like some kind of car bomb. I don't really know.
I think she crashes her car. She thinks she has a message from Stengard from before he died, and she opens it, and it turns out to just be Vestine Crane being like, haha, good luck, bye-bye.
Yeah, I thought that somehow, like, activated some sort of, I don't know, maybe Rube Goldberg-esque, like, mechanism that, I don't know, caused her engine to explode or something. I don't know.
Well, the Doctor Who guide, the Doctor Who reference guide says that an eruption of noise startles her, so she drives off the road, her car crashes and explodes.
Yeah.
I thought for a moment when she had a recording from Stengard that it was going to be like Stengard also like used the alpha modulation software to record himself as a being, and like this was him escaping in her car, and they were going to like come back later on in like a sequel or something, but no.
Yeah, or an entire range given Big Finish.
Yeah, it's true.
No, they die. Well, she dies. Stengard was already dead. So
yeah, she dies.
That's that.
Yep. I really liked the story. I really liked what it was doing with like the fact that it wasn't audio and it was using audio as like a villain, and I thought that like the enemy of the story was really unique.
But I liked that too, but I just wish it went it actually went all the way with it, because that's all it was. It was just an audio that used audio as a villain. There was, besides that, like 2 minutes of deducing who the murderer was from the audio, there was nothing like meta or anything else to that.
Yeah, but they do the meta thing. I wouldn't want them to go all the way with the meta thing, because they do it better with that, like that. If you'll remember that Joe Grant audio we listened to, where like the whole audio was tapes that she had
remember
recorded.
that, and I forgot what it was called. It was like something. Wasn't it something of Grey or something like that?
Shades of Grey, I think. Was that the second Doctor one?
It wasn't Shades of Grey. Shades of Grey is something else.
I searched Shades of Grey on the TARDIS wiki, and it brought up related community 50 Shades of Grey wiki.
Hell yeah.
Woof. Woof. Oops, that's not how you spell grey.
Whatever. We'll find it and put it in the show notes if we can't right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I was thinking of that audio to the extent that I could remember it while listening to this.
Yeah. So I wouldn't want them to go all the way, because they do it better in that audio.
Or thinking of, what was that? Sleep No More, I think it was called? That one?
Yeah, I was thinking of that for the whole story. Yeah, the TV one that was like the found footage, the Mark Gatiss written one.
I barely remember that story, God.
But I don't know. I liked the story. Was it Find and Replace? No, I don't think it was Find and Replace.
It might have been Find and Replace. No, I can't remember.
No, we didn't listen to Find and Replace. It was one of these. This is going to bother me.
What was that one that was in...
it's Ghost in the Machine. It was Ghost in the Machine.
Yeah. What was that one that was like... They were in Berlin. It was like a West Germany, East Germany thing.
I don't remember.
And do you remember that? And it was it was actually just like it was just like a computer. It was like they were in the Matrix or something. I don't remember. Whatever.
I don't remember.
Actually, the cover of Whispers of Terror kind of looks Matrix-esque. Maybe just really capitalizing on. I mean, this was 1999 November. When did the Matrix come out in 99? Probably over the summer.
Well, while you look that up, I liked this story. I thought the villain was unique, which was like one of my complaints about Phantasmagoria and Sirens of Time, is that the villain wasn't really unique in any way. It was really just like things we've seen on Doctor Who before, just kind of done again. Especially Sirens of Time, which is like a 3-Doctor story, but then the villains were just like beings that have control over time, which is done like better in like the Silent or the Weeping Angels or any of those villains.
Yeah, I mean, the villain here was pretty lame, too. It was just someone vying for power. Like, it actually doesn't get any, like, more, I don't know, straightforward than that.
I guess, but I liked it that, like, she wasn't... You didn't really realize she was the main villain until part 3,
Yeah.
For part 1 and 2, you're like, oh, this sound creature's gonna kill them. The sound creature's, like, they need to escape the sound creature. And then, like, the twist in kind of part 3 is that the sound creature was actually working with them to do the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that, but all right, yeah. Hey, man, if you liked it, I guess more power to you, but I don't know.
Yeah, I did. I really liked this one.
I think this is my least favorite of the ones we've listened to so far.
Of the 3 we've listened to this season?
Yep.
Wow. What a knock. Of 3 audio dramas, it's the least favorite.
Yep. Anyway, we last week we talked about the website, thetimescales.com, because it was brought up by JB in the email he sent us. And so we're kind of thinking, like, do we transfer those IMDb reviews that we had been doing? Do we read reviews from Timescales, because they have basically community reviews, if you don't know, for essentially, I would assume every Big Finish audio. Seemingly they have a ton of audios on here, and most of them have community reviews. So we're like, do we read those? And we decided not to do that, mostly because the reason why we started doing the IMDb review thing was just to make fun of them, mostly. But the reviews on the timescales are actually more in depth and just better and more informed than IMDb.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly.
Although we figured we would use timescales at least to talk a little bit about the kind of general reaction to the story. We usually do this on the TV show because a lot of the times the episodes we're watching have sort of a settled almost fan opinion on them because they've watched for a while. This wasn't obviously true of Flux, but even in Flux we would talk about how like what we saw the immediate reaction to it was.
Right. We talk about reception basically to a very small extent, but we do. So this is like a good way to gauge that, I think, for the audios. Because we don't really, like, if we just listen to this in isolation, which we essentially did, it's like we don't really know. Was Whispers of Terror beloved? Was it reviled? Was it neither?
Mm-hmm.
So we're just going to be looking at sort of the general consensus here on timescales because they have a ton of reviews, or at least enough, I think, to form a good pool. 225, in fact, for Whispers of Terror, with an average rating of 7.1.
Yeah, from 225 ratings. People, the acting is rated very highly in this story, 7.9.
Right.
Apparently it doesn't have as high replay value. It's just at a 7 according to the user reviews.
Yeah, so they break it up here. They have plot, acting, effects, and replay. I guess replay being, would you re-listen to it?
Yeah, like re-listening value, I guess, yeah.
And across the board, we're in the 7s across the board for this story. The acting being the highest of those and the replay value being the lowest.
Yeah, so clearly I'm right and you're wrong, and I'm using these numbers to prove it, like a good scientist should do. It just
means your opinion is aligned with the timescales.com users.
I guess. The Discontinuity Guide spoke very highly of this story, probably even more so than me.
Yeah, it's weird because it was lame.
But it's okay. Oh, I was just looking. We were talking about how there'll eventually be a doctor younger than us, and Liz Miles of the Verity podcast just tweeted, "Guy, he's the first doctor that's younger than me. Oh God, that means I'm old now."
Yeah, it does. That's the true turning point or no going back point of age, I guess, is when the doctor is younger than you. You just go from, I don't know, being a spry young whippersnapper to like a gray, decrepit ball of dust in one, as soon as they announce the doctor who's younger than you. Literally that very second, you're done. You may as well have 1 foot out of the grave because the rest of you is in the grave.
Well, anyway, given all of that, let's talk a little bit about some actors, yeah?
I mean, yeah, if you want to, sure, why not? Pretty novel idea, but...
Okay, we could just not. We looked them up, I mean...
We did look them up.
Okay, so I looked at Matthew Brenner, who... he played Vistine Crane. Sorry, I zoned out for a second there. I'll start with the audios. Some of the audios has been in Red Dawn and The Rapture... Old Mortality, The Tactics of Defeat. Oh, last week you asked, like, what is Doctor Who Unbound? Unbound is like Doctor Who's version of the multiverse, where it's like different alternate doctors essentially doing stuff. Anyway, The Coop, Time Heals. She was in the Lady Christina box set. Whoopee. Okay, and then let's talk about his visual acting roles. 68 credits here. Troy, A Total War Saga, the video game, voice acting, Spy Wars. He was in Hitman 2, the video game. Nice. TV show called Palo Alto. He was in NCIS, The In-Betweeners, Castle. He was in an episode of Castle. EastEnders. That's pretty much everything I recognize, actually. Bunch of kind of smaller things, shorts, video games.
Well, so here's an interesting one. Peter Miles playing Gantman.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Miles, you may recognize for playing Dr. Charles Lawrence in Doctor Who and the Silurians. You may recognize him from playing Professor Whittaker in Invasion of the Dinosaurs, but probably recognize him as Nider from Genesis of the Daleks. Yeah, he was Nider.
Nice.
He's also been, he's reprised his role as Nider in Big Finish, and played in a bunch of other Doctor Who audios, or at least a handful. Reprised his role in the stage play, The Trial of Davros, also as Nider, and has an incredibly extensive career beyond that, including playing Secretary Rontaine in Blake 7, which I don't think we even made that connection when we watched Blake 7 Zenith of Blake 7 podcast. Check that out.
No, I don't think we did.
He's been in Softly, Sherlock Holmes, the 1968 version, a TV series entitled Detective. He was in The Doctors, Dixon of Dock Green, Paul Temple, Fathers and Sons, all things that I've seen before on these IMDb lists, sort of just British shows from the era. Crown Court, Moonbase 3, Then and Now, The Dragon's Opponent, New Scotland Yard, just a bunch of other things. Doctor Who, as we mentioned. He was in Survivors, Terry Nation production, Z-Cars, Blake 7, like we mentioned. Bergerac. His final role was in 2004, Soldiers, Heroes of World War II, the video game. He played the German narrator.
Nice.
I'm assuming he is no longer among the living. That is true. Yeah, he died on February 26th, 2018, age 89.
Yeah, pretty recently. Yeah,
like 4 years ago.
Well, I looked up Lisa Bowerman, who fans of Big Finish may recognize as being the voice of Professor Bernice Summerfield in Big Finish Productions. And she has her own, extensive spin-off role as Bernice Summerfield, who also a companion of the Seventh Doctor. But she's also, done a couple other things. She played Beth Parnell in this story. She's in a couple other things: Agreus, Buried Treasure, some Sixth Doctor stories, Stage Fright, novel adaptations, Early Adventures, Companion Chronicles, all the Bernice Summerfield audios, obviously. A recurring role in the Jago and Lightfoot series.
Which exists. Anyway, you have to affix which exists to that. It's like, it's almost mandatory. It's like, it's almost unbelievable.
Well, not anymore, since the actor who played, I think, Jago died.
Oh, really? Yeah, they started that series, I think, in 2016? Or was it
Life? I don't know.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, one of the two passed away very recently, and so they stopped the series. Anyway, she's also got some, acting credits. Casualty.
Yeah, because Doctor Who audios don't count. It's not real acting.
No, yeah, they're not real. Anyway, Doctors. She was in the Five-ish Doctors reboot. We never watched that. Maybe we should watch that sometime for this show. Coronation Street. Sapphire and Steel. The audios, according to IMDb. IMDb has a couple of audios on here. Weirdly random.
What, the out-of-print Sapphire and Steel audios?
Yeah. Anyway,
someone put those on archive.org at one point, and I was like, I'll just download these in a couple days. And then I went back and checked them, and they were gone. Yeah.
McCallum, EastEnders. Her first acting role was actually Doctor Who as Kara in Survival.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So there you go.
Well, finally, I looked up Mark Trotman, who plays Napton. He's also in another... he's in... What is this? He's in something from Real Time Pictures entitled Downtime. Not exactly sure what that is, but he's in it.
One of those not Doctor Who things, I guess.
It's a 1995 direct-to-video production featuring elements from the Doctor Who universe. It was directed by Christopher Barry. Hey, it has Liz Sladen in it, according to this image that they're using. But anyway, he's been in some other things as well, including Double Vision, a TV movie, Grange Hill, the TV series, The Who's in the Bill, He was in EastEnders. He was in something entitled Ian Levine Downtime Redux, which I assume is like a documentary thing
like
about
interview,
downtime. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, well, that's everybody I looked up, so I guess I'll read this one short email we got this week from Steven. TYD. Hey guys, can't type much at the moment, but just wanted to point out that Sylvester McCoy was indeed in the Arizona solution. Watch it again if you don't believe me. I also almost typed the 7% solution instead. Cheers, Steven. Sent from Yahoo Snail for iPhone. I think this is just a trick to get us to watch the Arizona solution again.
You know what? I'm just going to TARDIS wiki it right now.
Oh, I was going to IMDb, but yeah, okay, you could do that too. No, he's not listed.
Not the novelization,
on IMDb.
you stupid.
There's a novel. He's not listed on IMDb. Oh, wait, yes, he is. Anthony Stanwyck. There he is. Sylvester
Oh,
McCoy.
yeah,
Wow.
he was in it. Oh, my God. Yeah, that name just jogged my memory. Oh, my God, he was in it. We totally got that completely wrong.
We did get
remember
that completely wrong.
His costume was just like, at one point in the Arizona Solution, his costume was just like a blue t-shirt. Remember that?
Yeah.
Wow, how could we have forgotten?
I don't know.
Maybe it's because we
I don't know.
unconsciously yet intentionally removed the Arizona Solution from our memory.
For the better. The only thing you need to remember from the Ozone Solution is Colin Baker wearing Mickey Mouse ears.
Yeah, which I have on... It's our social media banner.
That's all you need to remember.
You also have to remember him ordering Chinese food or whatever it was at work.
Oh, and the fact that he was a famous meteorologist, like he had his own like following as a meteorologist.
Hey, we've talked about this before, which is like, we thought that was insane, but then remember, Saya or whatever her name is, I'll put her YouTube fan channel on the description, but there's this Japanese weather reporter who has like a cult following, except it's not really a cult because it's more of a massive following.
Jeez.
Yeah.
People are weird.
Yes, it's Saya Hiyama. Yeah, I'm pulling up her channel right here. I'll put it in the description. But yeah, that's that.
Well, anyway.
Essentially.
That's that. Yeah, that's that.
The world's most simped weather reporter. Yeah, there's an entire like mini documentary video on here.
Oh no.
The truth about... Okay, whatever.
Yeah, stop right there.
I know this seems like a rabbit hole that I'm not willing to barrel down.
Well, on that note, I have nothing else to say this week. Do you have anything else you want to add?
Not this week, but we will be back next week with more commentary. So don't touch that dial.
Don't touch that dial for the next week, because we'll be back. If you'd like to email us, you can reach us at thedoctor@decadentvegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on Whispers of Terror. You can find us on YouTube at Decadent Vegetable. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify, all at Trust Your Doctor. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Also, like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. Somehow forgot how to do the outro there for a second. But anyway, next week we're going to be listening to The Land of the Dead. I assume that's kind of like The Land Before Time, like after the meteor hit. But until then, the end. But we're not on recording.
Well, we are recording.
Well, we are, but you're not going to put it in the episode.
Watch me just put this in the episode.
Yeah.
Just put it at the end, the post-credit scene.